Hi there, nice to have you along with us, and let's talk tech, shall we, with Nick Khan, the associate editor. Yeah, I always want to say producer because I'm so used to television and radio and all that.
No, the producer's the guy with the camera in front of us.
Associate editor of Stuff. Nick, let's look at social media.
Yeah.
Let's step back now from, we've had all the rioting and all the looting and all the rest of it. How important was social media in all of this?
Well, social media has a role to play basically in any sort of, whenever any sort of event like this happens. You've got people who are spurring people on, you've got people who are trying to calm the situation down, you've got people who are, reporting and posting videos of what's happening in their neighborhood, what's happening in other neighborhoods, stuff like that. During a very, very emotive and very, very, for want of a better word, chaotic time, I think that social media is something people reach for either to kind of make sense of it or find out what's going on. If you don't have a television or radio, your smartphone is essentially a tool that you can use to keep track of all this. But also it can be used to incite and spread the chaos further.
It can be used to incite and spread the chaos, but I recall reading a story, I think it was last week sometime, about a lady down in KZN who had set up a group, started with her mother and her sister. She was desperately in need of painkillers, which she couldn't get hold of because they weren't available at any of the chemists she'd gone to. So she put this out on an app and said, I've got the following things that I can barter with you. So it became a bartering app where people were going on and saying, well, if you've got milk, I've got toothpaste or whatever.
Yeah.
And it became a whole bartering platform.
Well, that's the thing about about social media and also communication tools. Like that sounds like a WhatsApp group. It can be used to help a lot. For example, I saw something on social media where it was like, my mum can't get to a pharmacy to get her medication. Are there any pharmacies near you that are open, sort of thing? That happened a lot. There was also, the neighborhood group WhatsApp was basically saying, if you're going to Spa, bear in mind that they've closed the pedestrian gates because there's trouble at Campus Square in West Dean, that sort of thing. So it can be very, very useful.
Let's go to the sort of negative side of it. Sorry to err to the negative, but it was certainly used to fuel the violence that was going on. Is there any way, or should social media platforms be held accountable for that?
Well, I would say yes and no. The first thing is we also have to remember is that, without users, nothing happens on social media. Let's pretend for a second, let's live in a fantasy world where everybody who has a Twitter account suddenly deletes it. Right.
Okay.
Twitter would be deader than a ghost town, a graveyard in a ghost town. Right. So the responsibility starts with us, the users. The problem kicks in where we don't know where the social media platforms' algorithms are sending eyeballs. Right. So, for example, if a post is getting a lot of traction, and social media sells advertisements around very, very popular posts, does their algorithm, have a look at the post and go, well, this is incitement to violence, right. So we should pull back? Or does it just send people that way just because it's going viral? We don't know. What we do need is better algorithms. The example I would use is you and I and everyone here work in an office with loads and loads of other people, but it's got dry tinder and it hasn't been taken care of for a very long time. We're basically sitting in a fire trap.
Right.
Doesn't the management have some sort of responsibility to install at least a sprinkler system or some fire hydrants? And that's what I'd say, social media kind of has to up their game in situations like this. In the past, for example, Facebook was dragged over hot coals because while they were banning posts about the violence that was happening in Myanmar, for example, their algorithm was sending people to posts that were promoting it.
Okay, you've drawn the whole picture of the tinderbox that you're working in, but what should social media platforms be doing?
I think that they should be more transparent. I mean, for example, recently in Parliament, Facebook, Google, the likes were asked to attend Parliament to explain what they were doing for, about misinformation on their platforms. Google pitched up and they were very, very open. Facebook said that they were going to and then declined. But we also remember we did that segment a couple of weeks ago when they've added a bunch of tools to make advertising around, say, for example, political events and politicians and political parties more transparent. Yeah. What they need to do now is make what they're going to do about misinformation more transparent as well. Because let's be brutally honest here, when Parliament asked Facebook to attend, they were looking ahead at the municipal elections and harassment. I don't think that they were thinking that the country might be burning to the ground in a couple of weeks or weeks' time, which, exacerbates the need for transparency in this case.
Thank you very much for the information and the opinions. Nick Khan, the Associate Editor of Stuff, right here on Mansfield Today. That's all for this week. We'll catch up with Nick again next week. Until then, cheerio, bye.